Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started with our presentation. This is showing you 10 different things you can do to improve your SharePoint forms, and we're going to do that without having to use any custom code. So thanks for joining for our presentation today. My name is Will Cooper. I am a SharePoint developer and the training coordinator for Infowise Solutions. I've been working in SharePoint for about 7 or 8 years, and I focus exclusively on Microsoft-based solutions. Just to tell you a little bit about Infowise, we focus on making forms solutions for SharePoint, and our goal is to make that easy, and we do have fun helping our customers and improving those tools to make them as good as they possibly can be. This is a full form solution. These tools deploy completely inside of your SharePoint user interface, so you don't have to go outside and use anything like SharePoint Designer or any desktop development tools, any of that kind of thing. It's all part of your SharePoint interface. And it is a comprehensive solution for doing forms customization. Where we're going to give away a nice embroidered Infowise shirt at the end. That's for folks who live in the United States. We can do shipping for that, so stay on till the end. We'll give away a shirt. So as far as using Infowise, I really love these tools because it makes everything easy, very easy. Without these tools, especially in SharePoint, it can be a headache. It can be really complicated trying to accommodate for simple customizations, forms, and simple requests from your business. So that's really what these tools bring to the table. And in the presentation, I'll show you how fast and easy it is to make those kind of customizations. Okay, these tools can be either in Office 365 or on-premise SharePoint. So regardless of which SharePoint version you'd be using, you can use that. By the way, I wanted to mention, as I'm doing my presentation, if you have any comments or questions, in the Go To Webinar interface, there is a questions tool, and I hope you will take the opportunity to please enter your questions in there, and we will take the time to answer those by the end of the presentation. All right, so why would you be using Infowise? Everything is very easy. It just lets you do things fast. You can do it yourself. You can, accommodate your own custom requirements. You don't have to have a programmer do it. Do anything complicated. Have it done for you. It's very adaptable. You can do a lot of different options in terms of configuring those settings. And it's just easy to execute your SharePoint projects using these tools. So some of the key features that you can get to the settings very fast. You can check your results quickly, so you have a really tight feedback loop. If you apply a configuration setting, you can immediately see that change in your form. So really just in seconds, you can see those changes. You don't have to do a bunch of work before you know whether or not those changes are going to work. Very flexible. At the same time, as you get into using these tools, there is a lot of depth, and you can build very large, comprehensive, sophisticated solutions. So as those of you who are very familiar in SharePoint, who are more of the developer or administrator background, there is a lot of depth in terms of more things you can do with it. So you can really just grow with your understanding of the tool. What I'm going to show in the presentation today is a help desk solution, and this is built completely using Infowise Ultimate Forms tools. And this solution implements a setup where the forms change based on the status, where the ticket is in the process, and also the role, whether you're the person requesting help or you're a member of the help desk team. Very simple for the end user. More sophisticated options are shown for the help desk team. Key information is shown in the dashboard. You'll see that in just 1 second. And basically, this is a full solution built entirely using settings with Ultimate Forms. One thing I did want to note, the solution you're going to see during our presentation today we do provide a free 2-hour training to any of our customers who do sign up to use these tools. And we'll actually show you step by step, starting from a blank SharePoint site, how to build this solution if this is something that you're interested in. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into SharePoint, and I'm going to walk through these different settings for you now. Okay, so here's our dashboard for the help desk solution. So what I want to do now is roll through 10 different kinds of customizations that I can do really fast that make a significant improvement and impact on my form. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is how to do a formatted header. So if I go into a form for help desk ticket, you're going to see right off the bat this looks a lot different than your default SharePoint form. The customization I'm focusing in on the moment is this header that you see at the top. So some things I want you to know. The content of the field ticket is being displayed in the header. My computer keeps restarting. And then below that we have the status, and it's showing as complete. So we have information being pulled from the field shown in the header. And the other thing is the background color. Notice that's the background color brown. Let's look at another ticket. I'm going to show you that it has a different background color, that it's actually dynamic. So we already have some impact, and we have a way to show users something different rather than just the plain vertical SharePoint column showing all the fields. I can actually have my form look different according to the status of that. So that's how it looks in the interface. I'm going to show you the settings I'm using to make that work. So for all the things related to Infowise, basically I just come to my list and I click on this puzzle pieces icon. It'll take me to a design screen, and this is the jump off spot to do any settings that I want to do for the customizations that I'll show in this presentation. Okay, so this is in a section called tab settings. We'll come to the screen a couple of times. The content that you saw in the in that header is set here. I just go to this title field, and what it's letting me do, you can see in these square brackets, I can insert fields. Those are the field values going in. And then I'm doing one other thing. I'm calling the class whatever the status is, and that's how we're getting the colors. So I have that one line to put in there. Notice I have this little picker field, so it makes it really easy. I can double click and it'll insert for me, so I don't have to remember those codes or anything. There's one other thing I need to do. In order to get that style, the padding, the font, the background color, all that, I just add some entries in the bottom here for the styles. Really simple stuff. I just tell it when I want it to be green or red or black. And what I'm doing is referencing the class for the header. So you just drop in these formatting references, save that, and those are all the settings you would need to do to have that dynamic header with changing background color and changing content. Whole lot better than nothing at all, which is what you normally would have in SharePoint. All right, so there's number one. Next thing I want to show you is the icon fields. They're called color choice fields with Infowise. We've got a few of those. Notice for priority, status, and category, there's little icons for each of those fields. So rather than a regular SharePoint choice field, what I'm able to do is just go into the settings and pick icons for those values. In order to set that up, I just come to the Infowise settings screens, click on color choice, and basically I can take an already existing choice field from my SharePoint list, and I just pick whatever icon I like. It can be anything you want. So there's 50 icons you see in this tab, but there's actually 5 tabs full of these icons. So I actually have 250 choices, so I can just pick whatever I like. All I gotta do is just pick on the icon, and you see that it changes. So I just pick out whatever I want for those choices, and then save that out. And that's all I have to do. If you want to use your own icons, you can do that too. Notice there's the URL value. So if in your organization there's a particular icon set that you guys have, it's just a 16 pixel icon, you can just enter the URL, load right in, and that's all you have to do. And that makes for a much better looking dashboard, your list view screen. Much better than a standard choice field. I can tell you that in SharePoint, boy, I make a gazillion different lists and solutions. I do nothing but work on SharePoint, and I pretty much use these fields instead of a regular SharePoint choice field in every solution, and it just takes me a few seconds to set that up. Okay, so that was your second option. Okay, one thing you probably noticed is we have a tabbed interface, so we're able to kind of break things up into logical sections. And to do that, basically in my tab settings, I just choose where I want those fields to show up. I can reorder them, map them out, but this ends up creating a much more friendly user experience than just a long scrolling page. The configuration of that is very straightforward. I just go back to that tab configuration screen that I was on, and I go to tab settings. It's the first option. And at the very top, it just asks you, whatever name I want for a tab section, just type the name, hit add, boom, there it is. And then at the bottom, I just pick whatever fields I want, move them from the left to the right. Okay, so I just double click them, there they are, and then I can use the ordering, to sort those out however I want. And that's all I have to do to get the tab section going. No other settings required. Okay, so that's how you get your tabbed interface. Next one is progress bar indicator. See that progress column? We've got a nice happy green bar for when it's all the way full. And then also we've got a red bar if it's low, that kind of thing. That's keyed off a value for progress in the list. So first of all, let me show you from a user experience standpoint how that looks. I'm going to take my existing ticket, Excel Trouble, and notice I got a progress percentage. Okay, so I just made this a drop down, say 0, 20, 40, 60. So it's just a simple way to indicate how far along that is. Okay, so there it is. Notice it changed. When I hover over it, it shows me the percentage value, which is 60%. So it's changing as far as how full it is, but also the color. Okay, kind of fancy. If I didn't have tools for that, I'd probably have to do a few hundred lines of custom JavaScript code or something like that. It would take me a long time to set that up. A lot of tweaking, a lot of custom configuration. Not a great way to spend time. Okay, with Infowise, you just go to an option they have, which is called Indicator. And this is a progress bar indicator. Got different options. The one we're looking at is for progress. And it just needs to know where the value is coming from. So I already have this column progress percentage. It wants to know what the start and end value is. In many cases, that would just be starting at 0, going to 100. And another option you have, you notice I had different colors. I can define range. So what I'm saying is between 0 to 20%, make it red, 20, 60%, make it orange, etc. So that's it. That's all the settings that I have to do to get that nice, cool progress bar field, which I can show on my list view dashboard. Very fast. Just takes a few clicks. You make your configuration setting, and bam, there, the field exists. Okay, so that's progress bar. All right, fifth thing I'm going to show you is help. I'm really adamant when you do instruction to users in a tool or provide information, the best scenario for them is to provide that instruction directly in the form interface. Nobody really wants to go off and read a PDF in some other location. They're probably not going to look at that. Much better you give them instruction help right in the interface. So the problem is you want to give them detailed instruction, but you don't want to clutter the form. So these little help bubbles are something that you get with Infowise. I can provide very detailed instruction to my user in those fields, because for people to know what to do, they don't have to read that. But this lets me, possibly put in all the instructions I need for the tool directly in the form interface. So in order to enable that setting, it's just using the SharePoint help description. The difference now is that I can put in a very long description without causing a bad effect in the interface. And then in the tab settings where we were earlier, I just go to the general settings and there's a description location toggle. And rather than just showing it right in the form, I just select pop up and that's it. Then you get those help bubble icons and it changes the whole experience. It changes your whole strategy. Okay, so that's number 5. We're halfway through. Next one's cascading dropdowns. This is a big SharePoint wish, I would say. If you Google for this, you find all the time people trying to do cascading dropdowns. And generally speaking, that's not easy to implement at all. With the Infowise tools, they provide you a really straightforward way to implement that. So in my site, for my tasks, I made a couple of lists. One's called task categories and one's tasks subcategories. Okay. So categories is the broad categories. That would be my level 1 cascading dropdown, if you will. And then task subcategories is basically a more detailed breakdown of that. So my initial legwork is I just create these 2 lists. In the subcategories list, I made a category field, which is a lookup field pointing to the category list, which you just saw. So this lets me group them, if you will. So I've got a few different groups: setup, config, and cleanup. Okay, so since I have those 2 lists, that's everything I need to do to configure the fields for use in my solution. Okay, so if I go back to the, I have a sublist. It's called tickets tasks. Let me show you the functionality real quick before I show you the configuration. This has a, with Infowise, you can do a parent-child relationship where I can get a many to one. I can have, in this case, many tasks to my project. And the functionality we're setting up is here, where you see category, subcategory. So the concept is when I pick an option in the first dropdown, I want it to show just the related options in the second dropdown. Okay, so these are cleanup options. And what's going to happen, you're going to notice, is if I change the level 1, it's going to load the options corresponding to that. In a situation where you've got hundreds of choices going on, this can really improve your user experience. It's basically creating a drill down style functionality to let them find what they want. Okay, to configure that with my list setups, all I really have to do is go to the settings. I'll go back to that Infowise design screen. And this is called the connected lookup. Just a few things that have to be set. Once those lists are set up and ready to go, whoops, I need to go to the tasks list, not the tickets list. That's where we have this set up. So in tickets tasks, go to connected lookup, and we'll find that field. Okay, so we have category and subcategory. So subcategory is set up to use the values where the category matches up between those 2 columns. So basically connects those 2 so you get the automatic filtering. So I just need a few settings here, and that lets me create a cascading drop-down effect, so very little configuration at all needed to create that functionality. Okay, the next one I'm going to show you is a way to create your own custom logging tool. Okay, so one thing that'd be very useful in a lot of solutions is to log a history of what's happened with that record, and people that way can see, you know, what was the last thing that happened, that type of thing. So right here, you see one entry for when the ticket's assigned, and I want it to have a log entry when I change the status. So I'm going to change this to in progress. This is the ticket. My SharePoint list view looks crazy. So I just changed the status. I'm showing you the functionality first, and I go back into the ticket, and if I go in the history, the header changed. Notice that because the status changed. Also, in the history field, notice there's a log entry. Will Cooper at 11:20, ticket changed to in progress. Okay, so this is cool. It'll just keep chaining new information in there So the help desk manager will like this because they can see everything that's happened from the time that record was created. And you can listen for different conditions. Okay, so I'm going back to the configuration. In this case, we have a settings area. It's called Actions, and this is where we can define triggers. Some of you guys are checking out Microsoft Flow, or you've done Workflow. Same type of concept. You define a condition when something will be triggered, and then you say what you want to happen. Okay, so this happened on update history on status change. So what I'm going to do is load this action setting and show you exactly what happens. What I want you to see is that the rule for this is straightforward. It has a very simple trigger, that being when the status on the ticket changes, and a very simple action. I want to update the history log. Okay, so what it's looking for is when the status changes, that's the condition, and when it does, kind of have some formatting, which makes it look a little crazy, but all that is some HTML and CSS. That's just to get the black background and things like that. You can format it however you want to. It's making the entry ticket status changed, and then I can use parameters like the modify parameter. That's how I got my date timestamp. And every time in this record, when the status changes, it'll always do this. So once I've created this setting, I don't ever have to check it or do anything with it again. It just works for me automatically. So really fast improvements you can make to your SharePoint form. Okay, that was number 7. Next ones, I can show this together. In our form, we have a functionality which is really common to need to do. Rather than just showing users all of the fields all the time, really you want to be more dynamic. You really want to show the fields and information that need to be collected only if it's needed, right? All right, so we have a functionality here where if there's a hardware ticket, we want to collect more information. Notice when I change that drop down to hardware, it automatically accordioned out and showed me a field that wasn't visible before. It's called hardware details. I can do this with many fields, many sections, however I want to configure it. We just have a simple example here. There's a secondary part to that. If you're showing that section, you probably want to require it. This is tricky though, right? Because you only want to require it in the case that it's a hardware ticket, right? So if they do pick that, we need to trigger it, but only trigger it on that condition. Okay, so we have a couple kinds of functionality. We want to conditionally show a section, and we want to conditionally require a field. So, boy, if I don't have these tools, this is really going to be a headache if I have to implement this in SharePoint. But with these settings, you can do it really fast, and it's not confusing at all how you have to do it. It's very intuitive. Okay, so to set that up, there's 2 settings area. The first, if you remember, I want to conditionally show and hide the field. And to do that with Infowise, I just need to use 2 settings. One says when to hide it. So I'm going to hide the hardware when the category not equals hardware. See this hardware details? So basically I just tell it, don't show that to me. And then I have a second setting which says when to show it to me. Make it writable when the category equals hardware. And notice this happens dynamically. It doesn't have to save it back to the server. It happens real time in the form. So that's everything I need to make it show and hide. The secondary part of that would be the validation. Really not a lot of options for validation just with SharePoint out of the box. With this, I can create a rule where I say the hardware details length has to be more than 0. I can put in my own custom validation message, and I can set a condition. This means that the validation will not be triggered unless category is hardware. Otherwise, it's just not even going to consider the rule. Okay, that's everything I needed to conditionally show that section and conditionally require the field. Just that small group of settings. Okay, there's one last thing I'm going to show you guys before we kind of tell you some more about what to do for next steps. The last thing I want to show is how to do signature. Digital signatures, that's a really big deal. You hear that requirement a lot in organizations. With Infowise, we do have a signature field. There's many configuration options. Here's the handwritten signature option. They can sign right in there. It'll save that, and it will validate against the field. In this case, I'm pointing it to manage your notes. So you get a signature box. To set up that style of field, you just come into the settings, just as you might guess. I keep coming back to the screen. Just go to the Infowise settings screen. Just takes me a second to get there. And then in the columns at the bottom, notice I've got my signature field. And I just come in here. This is where you can create the column. Notice we already have one called Manager Signature. You can indicate what they're signing off on. And then you have different options. So we have kind of a more standard option, the declarative or handwritten is what you saw in the interface. And then you can show it expanded or collapsed. So there's some different options there, but that's all I need to do to have a signature field. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about how you get this set up, next steps, and then once we get through that, we're going to go ahead and do our shirt giveaway. Let me kind of show you some things about what you do to get the Infowise tools. And I do want to mention something before I forget. We are going to be at SharePoint Fest in Washington, D.C. next week. If you're in that area, especially if you're attending the show, please come by and say hi to us. We really love to talk to you. We'll answer any of your questions about the product. And also another show we're going to be at the SharePoint Conference North America in Las Vegas on May 21st. So if you're planning to be at either of those two shows, please come by and say hi to us. Love to meet you face to face. All right, so as far as next steps, certainly if you want more information, if you want the chance to talk to us directly, please click on the button Request Live Demo, and we'll schedule a demo with you and do a web meeting, and we'll answer any questions you have. You may have some concerns about using the product in your environment. Anything it is you want to know about the product, we really love to talk to you one-on-one. So just fill out that form, and you'll get an email confirmation, and we'll follow up. We'll give you a call and schedule that, okay? Really, to evaluate the product, what you want to do is get your trial version. There's instructions if you click on here. This is for the 30-day trial. For the on-premise, we just need you to fill out this form, and we'll give you some information and get you set up with the installation for that. Office 365, you just can click on Installation Instructions, and it's going to walk you through the steps of setting that up in the admin interface for SharePoint. So once you get that trial installed, it's full featured. You can do everything available in the Infowise product. So that's definitely where you want to begin. Okay. So another thing I really want to mention at the beginning, I had said we provide training automatically with the product. It's a really great value. So when you do sign up for the product, we'll give you a link and instructions. You can sign up for a 2-hour training where we're actually going to show you how to build what I showed in my webinar today. So we'll actually show you right from scratch, from a blank SharePoint site, the steps that you go through to build that full solution, not just these configuration settings I did today. Additional to that, we have a full training program. So especially if there's some of this that seems a little bit intimidating in terms of the product, or if you just want to make sure you get the most out of it, we have a foundation training program. This is in-depth hands-on training where you can get hands-on practice building solution. And there's even advanced training if you want to go beyond that. So there's lots of information on our site about how to do that. In the tutorials, this is of course free. If you just click in here, there's actually specific step-by-step instructions how to use all of the configuration options in the tool. So if you're just working on a specific type of setting and you're not sure what to do, if you come through here, all of the different tool configurations there, as far as lots of examples and practice work that you can do. So definitely a great resource for people who are new to the product. We've got loads of recorded webinars. We will post later today a recording of this webinar. This shows all kinds of different solutions you can do in SharePoint. Help desk, vacation requests, dashboards, you name it. There's just loads of examples. So if you're just looking for ideas, if you want to see more types of solutions that you might build with these tools, please take the time to check that out. And we do have a blog post. We really like to keep up with our customers. We add features and improvements to our product all the time, which is an awesome part about getting the software. You automatically get that as well as full support as part of your product purchase. So that's the main information about our product. So just to repeat, your next step should be either to go ahead and schedule a demo with us, or to go ahead and get the trial installed, start playing around with it, install it on a site, start using the tools, find out for yourself. That's what's really going to help you move forward to the next step. Let's go ahead and do a shirt giveaway, and then I'm going to jump to some of the questions if we have time. So what I want you to do is in the interface, just give me a number 1 to 100. Just a reminder, it does need to be in the United States, just for mailing purposes, and we're going to go ahead and give away a shirt. So just enter a number 1 to 100, and I'll pick out a winner closest to the number I'm thinking of. I'm going to give you guys about 10 more seconds, and then I'm going to pick a winner. All right, Steven Janosik, and I'm sorry if I'm not saying your name well. Go ahead and drop me an email to willc, W-I-L-L-C, at infowisesolutions.com. Let me know your shirt size and your mailing address, and we'll send that off. So congratulations, Steven. Let me take a look at a couple of the questions, just to make sure I've given you guys the information you want. All right, I think we kind of answered some of them in the chat interface. With the tab settings, usually you should go ahead and use those really on any kind of form, just because it unlocks all the custom configuration and look and feel from Infowise. So, and it looks better that way. So even if you have a very simple form with a few fields, it's still good to go ahead and just make a tab at the top, and then it brings in all the styling and configuration. So can you use a multi-select as a subcategory? Yep, you do have that option. That's one of the configurations. Pop-up message. Yeah, we do have validation. So that's probably the best way to control that. I think Vladi kind of answered that one. We have really full, in-depth email alert capabilities. It's probably one of the most comprehensive aspects of the Infowise product. I didn't demonstrate it today, but we do have a lot of videos in the webinar section that would show that to you, but it's very good. So if that's something that you care about, having email alerts go out, especially formatted email alerts for special conditions, this product really gives you the best possible situation, in my opinion. That's everything I want to demonstrate today. I really appreciate you guys joining for a webinar. I know everybody keeps a busy schedule. Please reach out to us if you got questions. You can reach us at sales@infowisesolutions.com if you have questions about getting the product. You're welcome to contact me direct. And again, my email is willc@infowisesolutions.com. And as I mentioned, I am the training coordinator for the product, so I may be interacting with you one-on-one, especially for Kickstart training, which if you get the product, I very much hope you sign up for that. We'll have one of those coming up very soon. So that's everything we have. Thanks again, everybody. These tools are really awesome. I was a customer before working with the Infowise, and I really love using this. I can't imagine my life as a SharePoint developer, administrator, user without these tools. It just allows me to do everything I want to do. And if you get these tools, you'll soon wonder how you ever were getting by without them. It's really that awesome. So I hope some of that, my feeling about how awesome this is, rubbed off on you, and look forward to talking with you guys individually soon. Thank you again.